Hi everyone. I'm Alea Reis, and I came here to do this presentation. And just before we begin, when I first made this presentation, it was for some conferences in India, and the subject was successful transition to adulthood. So I made a presentation, an artistic presentation, saying even about like sport and strengths. And like I had to adapt it because as we are now in a virtual space, the artistic stuff is not going to happen because, well, I think we need face to face and the energy in the same space. But I'm going to do a little bit of changes on that. I'm going to say a little bit of my history, not as much as I do in my artistic presentation, because I think as in artistic stuff, I can put more things that hurt me without hurting me so much. So, well, I'll begin with the PowerPoint. Screen share. Yeah, I think we're good. So I'll start with, should I be here? And should I be here because, well, I'm autistic? And that's a question that I always did to myself, like, should I be here? And as an autistic person, I think that this is a way where I can connect with people and humanize who we are. Explaining why diagnosis is so important, showing how I felt at least. So let's begin introducing myself. I'm Alea Reis. I'm 36 years old. By my accent, I'm not from Canada or United States. I'm from Brazil. I was born and I live in Curitiba. It's a beautiful city, by the way. And I had my diagnosis when I was 33 years old. Initially, my first two diagnoses was, well, I'm autistic and I have high abilities, the creative, productive kind. And just this year, I discovered that I also have ADHD. So, well, should I be here? Again, this question remains, and there is a point on that, you said. So let's begin with childhood. And well, I was a really nice girl. I was cute, right? Yeah, I was really cute. But how I felt, it was like that, alone. And it was, well, that's really strange because what doctors may take a lot of time to see and to realize, a kid will notice in like a blink of an eye. And you'll be like left alone. You'll be bullied when you're different. And I never got why I was like I was. But, well, I was really alone. After all, I really wanted to be with other kids. But sometimes they didn't want me to be near them because I was kind of odd. And sometimes I needed to be alone because I needed silence. And I never got like why I needed so much. And for several decades, I didn't understand the way I was playing, sometimes hiding in odd places in my school. And after a while, I realized that it was to survive. But I just could realize that when I had my diagnosis. And beside all of that, all the days I went to the infirmary, I was always feeling bad. the nurses of my school, they all knew my name. One day, my brother went to the infirmary, and when they saw our last name, they said like, "Oh, you're Alia's brother," and like, yeah, I was kind of known by everyone. And I also had a lot of problems with texture of meat, smell of fish, and things like that. Too bad there were it was other times. I used to get beaten to stop vomiting when I was eating. Other times, I was also the shy and quiet and almost invisible girl. I was really intelligent. My grades weren't a problem at all, but my social part, yes, that part was a huge problem. But as I was quiet and didn't bring any kind of problem, no one thought it was something to look at. My friendships were none. Or, well, one person to who I would devote everything that I had, and it was quite difficult growing up. Uh, and without support. When I was like 13 years old, my therapist mother, he got me a he got me into free therapy because we couldn't afford it. And I'm forever grateful to him because he really saved my life. I was passing through a really difficult time when I was stopping communicating with other people. I was isolating myself more and more and more. And starting like going to therapy made all the difference for me. And when I was like 14 to 15 years old, my parents, they decided to give me a big party for my 15th anniversary. That's a huge thing here in Brazil. And the party that was supposed to be small was growing in their minds. And I was like, okay, who am I going to invite? So I decided to put a mask on myself. I was kind of getting how people behaved, and I was starting to be able to imitate that. And it worked pretty well. I was popular when I was 15. My party was a huge success, but I still felt really lonely because, well, I was imitating. I couldn't actually get it. I didn't actually bound into something really meaningful, you know? And well, that's kind of difficult. Uh, I decided when I was 16 I would return to the nerd group because with then I felt more like into the group, but I was still really different from them. And well, I can say like masking for me started working pretty well, although I didn't get many things. And I lost a lot of opportunities because as I was trying to fit in no matter what, I started like failing in tests because I didn't want to be seen as an intelligent girl. It was hard to be seen because every time I was seen, I was bullied. And when I stopped like being the nerd or being the intelligent, I kind of began to fit in. Well, that has bad consequences, of course. I didn't get into a public university. I had to, well, go into, I passed in a private university. We had to pay for it. Too bad, right? Well, what I can say that is that think about my life made me feel paralyzed, and it was really difficult at the beginning to do this presentation, especially the one artistically where I do things that, well, one day I hope I can present um, to you. But yeah, let's go. I went to college, and here's a thing. What I always wanted to do was performing arts. And I never really got why, because my mother she never put me into theater. She would put me in courses like that would develop me to get a job after, but fun stuff was not something that she would pay for. And well, she really wanted me to go to law school, and that's not something that I really wanted to, but I did it to make my family feel proud of me. And actually, yeah, I passed through law school. That's, well, my part of graduation. And with that, well, it's kind of difficult not having someone to look at me, to look at in the screen, but let's continue. Oh, when I was during graduation, I passed through a public contest here in Brazil, and I got in a public job in a court. So I'm still in my first job until today. I entered in 2010, so it's been 14 years now. And it's not my dream job, but it pays the bills. And that gave me the opportunity to do something and to discover something that I really enjoy, which is traveling. Who would think about that, right? And that's strange because I come from a middle class family. My parents didn't have like money to travel or anything, but I always look at people like traveling and thought like, oh, that's beautiful. One day I want to do that. And as I had this, as I got into this job, I got like my first vacations, and I asked everyone if anyone could come with me. No one could, and I was okay. I won't let it go. Like, I'm going to discover how to travel. So I put on Google how to travel alone, and I really studied. And yeah, after that, I went to Argentina, Buenos Aires. That was my first trip. And I discovered that I really love to travel alone. And it was amazing. I met a lot of people traveling alone, and knowing what they was doing and like how they traveled. It was like a subject that I got really hyper focused on it. And since like when I was 23 years old, like 13 years ago until now, it's been like 13 countries, 9 of them alone. I've met some parts of Brazil too. Brazil is a huge country. And as a matter of fact, I love knowing new places and knowing new people. When I travel, it's like a vacation for me, even from people. Well, I know people, but like most of the time I like being alone. I like observing things, discovering things. And for quite a long time it was kind of strange because I noticed that people around me, they wouldn't feel so good about being alone as much as I. But like, oh, who cares? I continued traveling. Oh, so here are some photos of me traveling Machu Picchu, jumping from the biggest bungee jump in the world. And that's like something that I really love and really enjoy. And that's not bad at all for an autistic woman, right? So we pass through another part of my life now, COVID-19. And I know this is like bad time for everyone, and it was a bad time for me too. But some things happened. Like 1 month before COVID, I moved alone to an apartment. Before that, I was living with my parents, so it was like 1 month I was living alone. And then COVID came and the social restrictions, and I was alone, completely alone in an apartment. And I was really stressed because, of course, I didn't know what was happening with the world, what was going to happen with the economy, with my parents, with my family. I was worried about everything. I was really stressed. But at the same time, my life quality became lots way better, way better, and that was kind of really strange. And okay, I was living alone, I was working from home, I had a controlled environment. I could do everything that I was hyper focused at, like freely, without anyone noticing or like, oh, you're, saying things like you're doing that too much. And well, my life got much better. And then, well, came this part of my life, the part where I get my diagnosis, which I prefer to say that's the beginning of a new life for me. And how did that happen? Well, I had a school colleague. She told in a story on Instagram that she got her diagnosis, and I was okay. How was that? I was really interested because for several years I would put like on Google autism, and I autistic or something like that. And all that I found was things more stereotype, uh, like, uh, oh, that's prevalent in boys. The way it was written, I always got like, oh, I should have all those things hugely, like all these sensory things in a way like we see in movies, we see in series. And I this colleague of mine, she told me like, look for autism in women. Oh God, when I did that, it was like I had a map of my entire life, and I became hyper focused on it. So I started writing everything that I realized about myself, and I had pages and pages of things written. My next step was to look for a psychologist specialized on it. And I found my psychologist, Aline Provenci. She's great, and she's also autistic. So that's even greater. And when I got in our first meeting, I told her why, and then she told me what was she going to make the tests for. So it was for autism, high abilities, and ADHD. And we passed through a lot of sessions, and it's crazy that before I got the final result, I couldn't even sleep because I was like, what if I'm not autistic? Because I was so sure. I was so sure, like there was no other possibility for me. And I was like, oh, if I'm not, what's the problem with me? And like that would explain why I always felt so different. And I always knew I was so different. And then it came my diagnosis after all. It came the autism, and it came the high abilities, the creative, productive kind, which was new for me because I always got like good grades in general, easily, but I never saw myself like, yeah, someone with high abilities somehow. Like that was strange. And it's crazy that when you get your autism diagnosis, it's like a review of your entire life, but from different angle. Like now you have, I had a fundamental information, and that explains a lot. And it's crazy because with that, I started learning how to respect myself. I was reframing my whole history, and with that, I could overcome a lot of guilty because of a lot of things that I couldn't understand in my past. And with that comes, of course, self-understanding, self-acceptance that comes like it's constantly. You keep reevaluating yourself. And when you understand what you feel, why you feel, and what makes how that interacts with your body, it's like an experience that it's really life-changing. And soon I will be talking about something that gave me like strength to pursue a dream that I had. And well, it's really life-changing, I can say that. So let's pass through another part. Doctors. Well, I went to one doctor while I was getting my diagnosis, and she told me like, oh, don't look for autism because you certainly have high abilities by the way you think. And I had another bad experience with another doctor. I had to go to a neurologist, and after a while, after a few hours, after the meeting with this neurologist, I got that he basically told me I wasn't autistic and that I was trying to take benefits granted for autistic people. Well, as an autistic person, I couldn't really get what was he saying at the time. It took me a few hours to understand. And what I have to say to these doctors is like, correct diagnosis and information save lives, and it's liberating. And please, everyone that's in this medical field, stay updated and offer services appropriate to the level of functioning on the spectrum. Absolutely, they had no idea about what autism is, and especially the levels of support. And like that made me imagine and think about how many doctors don't talk about autism due to the lack of knowledge and or prejudice. That's really sad. That's really sad because I'm sure that happens a lot. And sometimes I'm glad that I wasn't diagnosed when I was a child because I have no idea where I would be put at, like with drugs or maybe locked down in some psychiatric hospital. Have no idea. But at the same time, if I was diagnosed with the kind of information that I have today, with someone updated, my life would be much better, much better. Unfortunately, that's not possible, so we do what we can. And now I want to talk to you about some symptoms I used to have. Well, I used to feel bad every day, all day long, when I was a kid, and when I was a teenager, when I was an adult, and having to lie down for a long period of time and be quiet without no energy. My family really thought like I was a really lazy person. And I remember since I was a kid, I always went through a lot of doctors and to a lot of emergency rooms at the end of the night when I couldn't stand what I was feeling because I was feeling so bad with so much pain. And every time nothing was found. So when nothing is found, the doctors usually told me like, oh, that must be stress. And if I think about that, well, somehow it was stress, but they couldn't tell me why. Why was that happening? Why was that happening so much and so many times over and over again? And I was beginning to feel like I was broken somehow. What's the problem with me? Why I am always feeling this way in a point that I had to go to an emergency room? And now I understand those were sensory issues, overloads, shutdowns, sometimes meltdowns. And I'm a great actress in real life. I mask pretty much well. So most of the time, I look fine, but I'm not. And that's not visible for other people. So to think about sensory issues and shutdowns, they shouldn't be normal. Sensory overload, that shouldn't be normal. And here I say to you, autism has no face. Well, let's go to a fun question. Who likes going to museums? Well, I love it, especially when I'm traveling. And I have two stories about museums that are quite unusual, I would say. First of all, I went to Pablo Neruda's house, La Cascona in Chile, Santiago. And it's a beautiful house. It's pretty amazing, an amazing museum. But right at the beginning, I was feeling really bad. Like I was fainting, I was going to vomit. I was feeling like I was going to faint. My head was dizzy until a point right at the beginning of the museum. I had to run off the museum and sit on the floor, and it took me a long time to recover. At that time, of course, I didn't have any kind of explanation for what happened. So I thought, okay, maybe that was spiritual. Maybe something bad happened in this house. Maybe Pablo Neruda's spirit's here and he's not happy about something. Oh, that's funny to say that. Sorry, Pablo Neruda, wherever you are. It was nothing with you. It was only me. Now I know it. And a few years later, I was traveling in Mexico and I went to the Palace of Fine Arts. It's a beautiful building. It has some floors. I think it's 3 floors. And I was like in the second or the third one. And I was feeling everything. Like I was like nauseated. My head was dizzy. And well, something was really wrong until it got to the point that I had to go to the restroom. I was traveling alone in this one, and I sat on the floor of the restroom until someone found me, and they had to get a wheelchair because I couldn't move, and I went to an infirmary. The result was nothing was found, and the doctor who was there, he told me, oh, you must be hungry, so you should eat something. And that was odd because I had enough breakfast before coming to this museum. So I was like, makes no sense. But okay, when I recovered myself, I went to a restaurant and ate something. Even I wasn't feeling like I was supposed to eat, but I ate anyway because I couldn't pass. I couldn't feel bad, especially when I was traveling alone. After getting my diagnosed, it made sense what has happened there. It was sensory overload. And nowadays, I still go to museums, but there are some kinds of expositions where I realized that when I enter, I started feeling this nausea. And if I continue there, like the feelings began to be more and more intense, and then my head gets dizzy and everything. So now, what happens when you have the diagnosis? When I enter in these places, I stop there and I go to a different exposition. And now I can choose. At that time, when I didn't have and the diagnosis, I would try to explain what we don't understand. So my explainings, they were, well, ridiculous. Like one spiritual thing, sorry, Pablo Neruda, and the other, like I'm hungry, but like, come on, I'm hungry, I just ate. It makes no sense. And now I can choose. I can choose. Like once I wanted to go through this exposition just to see, and I knew I would feel bad, but I just went really quickly just to see, and then I had to recover myself for like an hour just by doing this quickly journey. But most of times I choose not to be in this position. And here goes, like sensory overload. People usually say that level 1 of support is easy, and now that's nothing. But come on, guys, it's never easy. It's not mild. It depends on each one. And every autistic person will express their sensory overload in different ways. So respect that. And well, I have the depression and anxiety since forever. The intensity of that, it changes varying of what's happening in my life. And I have to say that therapy saved my life. Thank you, V. He's the psychologist that got me into therapy when I was 13. And unfortunately, for not being able to see warning signs, we get into abusive relationships, unfortunately. And well, and one really important thing here to say is that there is a high level of suicide among autistic people, level 1 of support, because they don't seem too autistic to get support. And so society like pushes them like, oh, you don't need it, you're just you're just pretending or something like that. And that's serious. That's really, really, really serious. So in this part, when I'll talk a little bit about masking. And this is a part where I would do a performing thing. It's not going to look so good. But what I can say is that a lot of people say that I don't look autistic. And as I told you, I started getting better at masking when I was 14. And like sometimes people ask me like, oh, you don't look autistic. Why don't you look for a cure for it? Like there is no cure. And should anyone? Okay, I won't enter in that. But like no one sees when I'm exhausted. No one sees that because most of the time I'm masking a lot. No one sees how I am when I'm alone at home, exhausted, looking, staring at nothing, like just trying to repair myself. And I am a really good actress in real life. And that's actually really sad to say because I know how much I paid for it. Now I get how much I paid for it. And I still wonder that if I take off my invisible mask, if people around me would still like me, you know. And the worst thing about being a woman, level 1 of support, is that I don't know exactly who I am without my masks. Now that I live alone, I'm kind of allowing myself slowly to test things and to try to discover who I am here where I feel safe to sting, to be weird. And I have to say that masking helped me a lot throughout my life. Like it helped me to survive. And I get that we do that because we wanted to be included, and not be left out of society, you know. We do that because we need to be safe, to feel safe. We do that because we wanted to get loved. But it comes with a high cost, a really high cost. And those high suicide levels, among level 1 of support, is really something that we should start thinking about, how much masking we should make, or maybe we shouldn't be masking a lot. Like maybe society should, I think those kind of talks, they are most of all to society to understand that we have the right to be kind of weird, and that's okay to be weird somehow. Yeah. And we must get the support we need, you know. And well, there is intersectionality. So an autistic person's speech will be legitimized considering gender, class, and race. And I'm a woman, most of my talks won't be listened the same way as a man, but I know that at the same time I'm a white woman, middle class, that has like, I have like, I can be heard in somehow. And well, that's a little bit hard to say. It's hard to get your rights known, to get your rights recognized, depending on those assumptions. And exercising the rights is really difficult and painful, especially even for someone who's privileged somehow, like me. Like I've got some troubles at my work, and I work in a human resource department, and even working in that, like, it was really difficult for me to get to work from home, to feel better. Like I had to pass through a lot of medical examinations, through a lot of prejudice, and I've got like, it was really difficult. In markets, when I have to use the preferential query, like elderly people really look at me really bad. When I use like the preferential pain role, it's really hard. Like people really look at me, even if I'm using my identification as an autistic person. Like people really judge you, and they are really mean. They say things for you to hear because you don't look like. And it's especially painful when you don't look autistic. Like, should I be like standing a lot? What should I do, like, really? And imagine for those persons who are part of even more minority groups, it will be even more difficult to access it. And I have to say that sometimes I feel like I'm a foreigner within humanity. I learned how to speak neurotypical language, but sometimes I'm not good at it. And sometimes I don't understand your language. Like I pretend I do, but I don't do. And it's like I'm being a foreigner, like I'm traveling among you and observing a lot of things that don't make any sense. And sometimes I can speak like a native, but sometimes you can hear my accent. And as much more accent as I have, more I'll be left out. I'll be left in the margins. So that's really odd. And I have to say that I got to learn a lot by observing you. And sometimes it takes a while for me to get something, but I learn. And I have to say that we have a lot of empathy. And I have to emphasize too that suicide thoughts, depression, and anxiety, they're not diagnostic criteria for autism. These are comorbidities that we develop because we live in a society that does not support us to survive. And exercising a right under those conditions of judgments all the time is painful and exhausting. Autism level 1 of support is not light, and society tries to take away the benefits I would receive from being autistic. Benefits that try to make me equal to them, but they don't see how much I struggle when I'm in crisis. So I'll go now to a good part of this talk, performing arts. Well, after I got my diagnosis, I started realizing that the way I think, the way I am, it's not bad. It's just different. And I got again at university. Now I'm in the third year of performing arts. And I became really hyper-focused on masking. And on masks too, I started creating a lot of masks. This artistic presentation that I do, I have a lot of masks that I built only for that. And I have to say that maybe I got so hyper-focused is because masks helped me to live. They helped me to survive and not to be marginalized. And I think that in performing arts, that's where I can build the world and stories I want and I see, and where I can be really creative. And with that, I can show people how I can see different worlds, and maybe together we can make a change. We can support each other. I don't think that atypical persons exist by anything. Like, I think nature is really intelligent. They make us to be with neurotypical, and we can make change together. Like, I don't think that's by nothing. And well, I can say that for me, like, the art has the power to make micro cracks in people's souls, and that way we connect with each other. And here we go to hyperfocus. And come on, hyperfocus is the best thing for the autistic and best thing for society. Please encourage people, autistic people, to do their hyperfocus. It keeps us healthier. We need this. And of course, we will contribute, of course, with something different that you never saw. And we contribute to society because we see points that other people won't see. And I have to say that it's been like three years since I began performing arts, and I've done a lot of things. I didn't realize that until I did this presentation. So in 2022, I participated as a photographer assistant for a while in a web series. I participated as a volunteer in a production assistant in a horror movie, and this professor, he is going to hire me next year to continue in this project. I've been in some institutional videos for military police here, institutional video for a lecture court. I've been in 4 independent movies so far, and I've been in 6 plays until now. And I've done some artistic presentations in 2 conferences here in Brazil. The second conference is where I met Stephen Shore, and because I met him, I made this presentation to India, so I went to India and I made these 2 conferences over there. It was great to be there with him and to meet Bill Peters. And now here I am in Autism Today. That's great. Some odd things and really unusual things happen in India. Like, I met the president of India. I was in the podcast in Autism Soccer. That was really nice. And I've done 2 performances, artistic performances that was really, really, really great. In one of them, I'm going to talk a little bit faster because I just saw I have only 15 minutes left. So I was in the second performance here. It was for a project, and it was really nice because we were like all autistic persons. Most of most of people who were working were autistic, and it was incredible working with them. Like, we had a schedule, everything was clear and set. We had time to start and end our meetings. We had training. We did everything in the events on time and I have to say, it's amazing working with people, autistic people. We may have like sensory issues from time to time, but still worth working with us. Like, I strongly recommend that you try to avoid prejudice with sensory crises and adaptations that will cost you almost nothing compared to the benefits you will have with autistic workers. And now my next steps to create a performance about being an autistic woman. And well, let's see how it goes. Like, next year, it's the year that I'm going to prepare that. I'm already doing it. So, but like, what I want to say in this part is that if we autistic people are stimulated in our hyperfocus, great things can emerge and benefit everyone. Additionally, autistic people are great at working on things that interest them. And here are some train of thought, like some things that I would like to say to autistic people. Please understand what kind of support you need. When you understand that, you can require the support you need, and you can avoid some things that will make you feel bad. And please find an autistic collective, know autistic people. Like, when I'm entering into an autistic collective, I felt so emotional because I saw a lot of people with who I shared a lot of things in my life that I couldn't share with other. Like, we had a lot of, it made me feel belonged somewhere, you know. And please know your civil rights. Learn how to use them and to defend them. And if needed, use alternative communication. And I'm not exactly, I don't, you have like ready message cards, you have other kinds of alternative communication, use it if you need it. And if you can get some therapy with someone specialized, it makes all the difference. Complain if you have been treated like a child. And we are political bodies, remember it. Wow. I'm running here because, well, time. So, to neurotypical persons, please give support, and that includes family and society. Don't treat autistic adults like children. Please respect us and be literal and assertive, and understand that we are like that. That's how we are. And services, please stay updated and offer service appropriate to the level of functioning on the spectrum. And again, autism has no face, it's a spectrum. Respect even those who don't look like it. And don't deny support. Steaming is good for us. And if it's not hurting us, come on, it makes no difference for you. And family, accept autism and understand autistic people. Help them getting support and to use their civil rights. And nothing about us without us. I have to say, we have a lot of good things. We are organized, we see details, and we find new and better solutions. It's great to work with us. And we work instead of being chatting in the office, coffee area. Come on, we work. And maybe be able to look in the eye and have small talks are overrated and non-productive at all. Hyperfocus make us very good. And we are really cool. You should really try to get to know us. And now I'm almost in the final part. Well, should I be here? As I told you, I asked myself that question for so long, and it was so painful. And when I was a kid, now I'm going to read a little bit. When I was a kid, I didn't know what was wrong with me, and so I kept trying and trying to fit in, and I kept failing at it. And if I had known before that I was different and that I wouldn't actually fit in the way I wanted, I would have taken advantage of the opportunities that came to me. I did not appreciate it, who I was, that's sad, and I really regret that. But I didn't have the kind of information back then, and no adult to know that and to help me get through it. Because a child alone can't do it alone. They need support of an adult. So autism needs to be accepted not only by the child, but also by the child's parents, and extend this to schools, doctors, and society in general. This is extremely important. I could have participated in mathematics competition. I could have enjoyed getting great grades without studying. I could have started to believe in myself to do what I wanted. Maybe I could accept myself and enjoy being visible and my abilities. My life would perhaps be completely different. Well, at least now I'm in the third year of performing arts. Now I'm doing something that I really love and I'm really hyper-focused at. People like me are in the sidelines because society does not give them the support they need. Support must be guaranteed for all levels of support. We need to have civil rights, which need to be respected. And even if we don't seem to need support, society still needs to be there for us. Just because it's invisible doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because I can do many things doesn't mean that sometimes I don't need support with something, and that should be natural and accepted. We need more autistic people in discussions about us and advocating for us on our behalf. People are deciding things for us, and we need a voice for this. And we also need to be included, to get an education, to have jobs, to be able to live with dignity, to be able to have enough money to buy the device we need to survive in this chaotic world. We need to free our own people from mental places. We need to be seen as human because that's what we are. And we deserve to be somewhere, anywhere we want. We deserve to be in public spaces. We deserve to be respected in our needs. Correct diagnosis and information save lives. So yes, I think I should be here. I had some crisis while making this presentation because I found it was very selfish to talk about things about my life. And I didn't really feel like I had important things to say. I felt that it wasn't enough. But as I remember things that hurt, I felt like if I brought some of what I went through, it would be easier for a neurotypical to connect with me. As a friend told me, as we are living in an age of AI, we need to keep reminding ourselves of our humanity. At the same time, another question came to me. I don't believe that we have to expose our difficulties to exercise our rights, that we don't have to justify ourselves in order to exist. So I thought this presentation was going a way that I don't agree with. But at the same time, society expects a successful autistic adult. And if I don't show you what I went through, you have expectations without knowing that to be successful, we need to receive the right support. And most of the time, the support is not even expensive or even costs money. With the right support, society will benefit from it. And we have a lot to contribute. It's good to work with autistic people. And I must say, looking you in the eye, expecting your employee to know how to do small talks, be popular, and work presential all the time is overrated. You are missing the opportunity to have employees who do their jobs well, are organized, and have a tendency to find new and better solutions. For the atypicals, I say that if I had known who I was with the information we have today, I wouldn't have tried to reduce myself to fit into social groups. We need and have the right to be who we are, and that's acceptable and legitimate. I'm optimistic that we will achieve better living conditions. I feel like there is a myth that we don't like people. Well, I have to say we need and like people. Also, there is a myth around autism that makes neurotypical people afraid of us. Don't be afraid of us, please. We are really cool and we are great in a lot of things. Our difference aren't negative. It just is. You should try to get to know us. And well, this is not the end as long as someone tells stories like this. It's not the end. Until then, we must keep talking. And well, it's really a huge pleasure to be here with you guys and to be part of this. And if you need to contact with me, like on Instagram as Alea Reis, I don't know if I have any kind of asking any kind of questions. I'm sorry for my English too. Like sometimes it's kind of. I'll just put here again, like my contact, and I'm not sure if it's if it's appearing. So nothing about us without us. And I don't know if there is any questions. If, you can find me through Alea Reis. That's my Instagram. And it's great to participate of this Autism Summit. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Stephen Short, too.